Good afternoon, welcome back to the workbench. Today I have another phone charger here, which has stopped working. And there's an interesting story behind that. Not sure if I'm going to fix this one, not sure it's really worth it, but I just want to see what happened to it. Anyway, so the story behind this is it's fairly old. I'm not entirely sure exactly how old, but I bought it second-hand. It came with a second-hand tablet PC that I bought. It came with this charger. I don't know 100% if this is the original one that came with the tablet or not. The tablet was from the Warehouse, which is a local and fairly well-known branded sort of department store here, so you wouldn't expect it to be terrible quality, but who knows, this could have been a third-party one, I'm not sure. But anyway, I never used this much because I already had other chargers that were better, that had more ports and stuff and higher capacity, so I never really bothered to use this. I just sort of kept it in a box in a drawer and just kept it as a spare. And the previous time I used it, before the last time I used it, I did have a strange issue. I'll go into that later, but definitely the last time I used it, like last week, I was having an issue with one of my phones. It was charging really slowly and I wasn't sure if it was the charger or the cable or the phone, so I decided, I've got a spare charger for this one, I'll plug this in to see if it makes any difference, to see what's going on. So I plugged this one in, and some fun things happened. First of all, there was a sort of a hissing noise, a light hissing noise, and that's not something that's totally uncommon. I didn't sort of think immediately that was an issue, because I have noticed some switch mode power supplies do make a faint hissing noise at low load or such things, and I just assumed, oh yeah, that's probably all it is. But a couple of seconds later the noise increased and got much louder, and suddenly a whole lot of smoke came out through the USB port hole, and the thing did not sound very good at that point, so I quickly unplugged it. I noticed that this area was very, very hot. In fact, you can even see on the side of the case where it's kind of bubbled up. That wasn't there before, so yeah, there's something inside has got hot enough to sort of distort the plastic, and yeah, it took a long time for this thing to cool down. So I don't know exactly what happened, but the interesting point is that the previous time, I suppose the penultimate time, second to last time that I used this before that, it was working. There was no noise or smoke or anything weird, but my phone's touchscreen wouldn't operate while it was plugged in. I didn't realize that that's what was happening. I just plugged it in, I put my phone down to charge, left it, didn't think anything, didn't notice anything at that point because I wasn't using the phone. When I came back, half an hour later or something, I picked up the phone and wondered why the touchscreen didn't work, and I thought, oh no, my phone's broken. But when I unplugged the charger from the phone touchscreen was working fine. So I thought, there's something weird with this charger, I guess, because I have not had that problem with any other chargers. Yeah, it's an interesting question, like what could have caused that? I'm not entirely certain. I imagine there's some sort of interference problem, perhaps. I don't know what could have caused that. But that was an issue, and then I just, again, because I hardly ever use this, I just put it back in the drawer, and I think I forgot that had actually happened when I was sort of rushing around the other day trying to find something that might work, and I wasn't sure, so I just plugged this in and then it just went up in smoke. So I wonder if that previous issue with the touchscreen problem was something indicative of what happened further here, or not. I don't know for certain. But yeah, I basically want to pop this thing open and see what's going on, see what happened. I don't know if I'll fix it. I probably won't, probably can't. It's probably not worth it. It does have the same style as some very cheap ones I've seen that I've seen inside that were pretty bad. So again, it makes me kind of think this might not have been the original charger that came with the tablet. It might be something else. But yeah, anyway, let's open it and see what's happening with it. And my theory is that this very hot patch is probably caused by a fusible resistor or something, which did not really fuse. It was probably just glowing red hot inside and burning the plastic up. And the smoke, I'm thinking, is probably from the main filter capacitor, at a guess. The smell of it was Definitely not like silicon, not like burnt silicon. It was like something else. Or who knows, maybe even the transformer has burnt up, I don't know. But the smell was definitely not what I would have expected, and could have just been the burning resistor, I suppose, which is what I guess. But we won't know until we open it, so let's figure that out. No screws, of course. Can't feel anything under the label. I wouldn't expect there to be. But we do have this USB port hole here, which I might be able to pry open with a pair of pliers, like I did with that Apple MagSafe charger a while ago. Years ago, I think. Anyway, so maybe if I get a pair of pliers inside there, making sure to get them in the plastic rather than in the port. There is like about a millimetre or two of plastic there. Maybe I can use that to sort of spread it apart and pop it open, I don't know. I might have to skip ahead. Okay, I normally wouldn't recommend this because last time I tried doing this with one of these I cut my finger, but I have found that if I can get this in the side there, we are getting some leverage there, so I think now that I've got that open I might go for something less lethal, like a screwdriver. Something that I'm less likely to lacerate myself with. Let's see. Ah, there we go. That's working pretty well. Okay. Yeah, of course the problem with this is like if you slip, then you stab yourself, and if you're using a knife, that's not great. So, anyway, there we go. It looks like it got it. So yeah, so I just started it with this and finished it with a screwdriver. Not too bad actually, better than laptop chargers. Okay, let's see. We've got some kind of insulating material. Try and get this in frame. Some kind of insulating material, plastic it looks like. Well, this white stuff you can see, yeah, that's plastic. I'm just getting my fingers off this because I can see what's happened. So yeah, I mean the build quality looks a bit better than usual because at least they have like this as insulated stuff. Kind of insulated. You can kind of see one of the pins just poking out just on the end there, so it's not great, but they've at least attempted to do something, which is more than I've seen for a lot of cheap chargers. But yeah, I can already see what's happened. If I can get this out, it may have melted itself into the case though. I may need to do some prying, but hey, let's just have a look. Can you see the problem? It's as I suspected, and yeah, looks like that main capacitor there has gone up in smoke and steam and boiling electrolyte. We get a close-up on that. There we go. You can see residue of boiled electrolyte in the inside of the case, and this thing is very tight against the top, and you can actually see that's where that was. So interestingly enough, the resistor is fine. It doesn't look like anything's happened to that whatsoever, which is not great because the capacitor got so hot that it melted the top of that, and seems like it's melted itself into the top of the case. Well, let's see if we can actually get that out, shall we? Yeah, because like nothing else in here looks bad. The output caps look fine. The resistor isn't even discoloured. Anyway, I might need to get a screwdriver or something or a blade to pry the top of that capacitor off the case, because it seems to have sort of welded itself onto there and fused into the plastic. Right, how can I do this? Alright, so that came out there. You can see inside possibly this little sort of ring in there where the top of the capacitor melted the plastic. And you can see little drops of electrolyte inside the case there. We've also got a brand name here. What is that? I don't know. CSZthanks.com. Never heard of it, but interesting. We could look that up and see what they say. But Could be the plastic manufacturer, could be the power supply manufacturer. I don't know. But yeah, the top of this looks really good. This is actually not a bad little power supply, so I am kind of thinking this could be the original one, because it's not terrible. You know, we've got a dedicated chip on the primary side. It's a DK-1203. Never heard of that before, but it's probably very similar to like a TNY-233 or something like that, or whatever. But yeah, it's looks alright. We've got a nice big capacitor over here. You know, properly rated Class Y capacitor. That looks like the real deal. It doesn't look like some cheapo one. It looks pretty decent. So yeah, I mean, overall, the build quality looks good. We got good isolation. We've got an isolation slot under the opto. Everything actually looks pretty nice. You know, this is definitely better than a lot of the cheap power supplies, and definitely a million times better than the last one I opened that had a very similar shaped case. So this is definitely sort of like the premium model, I suppose, which does make me think that yeah, it probably is the original charger, because I wouldn't have expected the warehouse to sell something terrible. I mean, they're not like a premium brand, but you know, they don't sell utter garbage either. So the overall design of this seems pretty good. It's not one of those like 2 transistor oscillators with feedback through the transformer winding. It's got an actual opto isolator and actual feedback circuitry and all that sort of thing. So, you know, it's definitely not bargain basement. Do have some markings there on the board, but they don't tell us much. And yeah, we've got a TL-431 right here. So this thing's actually built half decent. Now the bridge rectifier looks like an MB10. That looks fine, you know, there's no discoloration, burn, damage of that. So yeah, it looks like the failure is entirely the fault of the capacitor itself. It just appears to have vented and blown out, and that's all there is to it. So yeah, I mean, replacing that would probably fix it. As to why it blew, well, probably just cheap caps. Even premium products sometimes use low quality capacitors, and this is, you know, not top end, so yeah. I think, what is it, 15 microfarad, 400 volts. I don't know if I have any of those, but yeah. What is the brand on here? DKS. Yeah, don't know. Never heard of that one. Just another generic Chinese brand. Sorry, I think I keep going out of frame with this thing. Oh dear, it's too late in the day. But yeah, DKS again. Never heard of it. Probably not that great. There's ROHS all over it. Which yeah. Anyway, here we have the classic 817B that so many cheap power supplies use. They all seem to use that opto isolator. Very common part. But yeah, I mean, even the transformer has an actual part number and stuff to it, so it's not some completely unlabeled, unbranded thing. It's yeah, sort of halfway decent. So I'd trust that this thing is probably actually quite good. It's just been let down by probably cheap capacitors. So yeah, it's tempting to just recap this whole thing, I guess. Probably do the whole lot. Maybe. I mean, the outputs look fine, but they're also cheap anyway. So, but this thing looks like it's hardly been used actually. There's a little bit of discoloration on the PCB here. It looks a little bit sort of darker around the transformer pins, which is where some of the heat will come from the transformer and also from the rectifier diode, although around the rectifier it actually looks less discoloured, so that's interesting. I wonder if that's meant to be in a little inductor made out of that trace there. It surely shouldn't be a fuse because it's much too thick for that. But yeah, we do have a that resistor there. It does annoy me they don't have an actual proper fuse in it. I mean, it's actually interesting. It actually says, yeah, I mean, interestingly enough, the resistor is marked as F1, and then we've got T2A, which would imply a time delayed 2 amp fuse. But yeah, they've still used some resistor, which is not really what you're supposed to do. I mean, you can, but it's not ideal. So yeah, that's interesting. Wonder if I should replace that with an actual fuse. It's kind of tempting. What value is that resistor? It's like 10 ohms? That cap has definitely gone. It didn't smell the way I expected it to smell. I guess they smell different when they're boiling. I've only smelt, bad ones that smell all kind of fishy and kind of like cat piss. But this did not smell like that. It just smelled horrible, stinky burning thing, which I thought was resistor, but turned out it wasn't. Part of that could have also been the plastic, I guess, but it's not really burnt. It's just sort of melted and has this outline of the top of a capacitor melted into it. So yeah, anyway, that's interesting. I don't think there's much wrong with the rest of it. It looks like a half decent power supply, and yeah, 5 volt 2 amp, not to be scoffed at really, for basic things. And yeah, the rest of the design looks okay. Although I guess that does raise the question: is why did this cause a problem with my touchscreen? Why was the phone not working with that? I'd love to hear people's thoughts about that. Yeah, because I don't know. Definitely, I might do some research on that and try and figure out what's going on there. Because yeah, that is definitely an interesting question. Why did it mess up the operation of the touchscreen? I've never experienced that with any other charger, and I imagine most of them are very similar design to this. It's a very classic switch mode power supply, just basic flyback thing. Single transistor inbuilt into a control chip, and we got the opto isolator for feedback and everything. TL431, it's like textbook really. There's nothing odd about it whatsoever, so I don't expect the design to be bad. Surely it must be some kind of component failure or something else. So I looked through my stocks of components, and I did find a capacitor that is very close to what I need. This one is a, what does it say on here? It's a 22 microfarad 400 volt cap. I bought 2 of these, have one spare. I used it to repair a switch mode power supply in a set-top box satellite receiver thing or something. I think, and anyway, I often buy a couple of things at once. But yeah, unfortunately, even though this is almost the value I need, 22 microfarad 400 volts, and it would obviously work. It's a little bit higher, but it should be fine really. It is too tall. It will not fit in the case. If we look here, this one, the original, it's yeah, it's about 18 mil high. If you have a look there, it's about 18 millimeters high, and this one is unfortunately 20 millimeters high. So that's not going to work. Ordinarily, such a small difference and that sort of thing is usually fine because the supply is usually inside something where that doesn't matter. But in this case, it's inside a case that yeah, you can see here. As we saw before, the capacitor, the top of the capacitor, is flush basically with the flat part of this case here, so it needs to be 18 mil at the max. There's no way that this is actually going to fit in there. So unfortunately, that's not going to work. Now there is of course another option for that. One could, discard this case, forget about it, and put the whole thing back into a larger case, a little project box or something. I have done that before, and actually with another phone charger that I had, where the control chip failed. It just died and stopped working. The thing would not work, and I replaced the chip, but the case was kind of all, well, it was broken apart from having to fix it, and I just thought, the easiest way is to put the whole thing in a little project box. And that's what I did. It was much simpler than trying to put the old case back together, and then of course I had screws on the case and I could easily open it again if any other fault was apparent. So I could do that with this. It might be worth it, I don't know. So yeah, maybe I could use this cap and that, but that's one option. I did look around all the local stores, and unfortunately no one has anything like this. Everything they have is either far too big or completely wrong value. The only other capacitors I personally have, like in 400 volts, like 100 microfarad, which is about 5 times bigger because it's an older cap. JCar also sells ones that are about that, but they're smaller, but they're still far too big, and the value is too big. Inrush current would be too high. All that kind of thing. There's basically nothing suitable, so I'd have to go with one of the big distributors like Farnell or DigiKey or something to get one of these for that. I don't want to go to eBay. I'm sure I could find ones this size on eBay or AliExpress, but of course we run into the same problem where it's probably the low quality capacitor that failed, and buying more low quality capacitors doesn't really make any sense. I like to buy the good quality ones like this, but yeah, I can get something from Farnell. I think I can get a 12 microfarad one that's about the same size as this, a little bit smaller. This is a 15 microfarad. I think, it's a 15, so a 12 would probably be okay, probably be good enough. I also have the option of getting like a 6.8 and maybe getting 2 of those and putting them in parallel. It might be physically possible to bodge that in. But yeah, I mean, the most likely thing is to get something like this, or even use this one and then put this in a bigger case. Sometimes that's just easier. But yeah, anyway, aside from that though, I do want to just check the bridge rectifier, because even though there's no signs of it failing, it could have. It looks really nice, it looks really clean. There's a little bit of like stuff on the left hand edge there, near the positive lead, which could be discoloration from damage, but honestly could just be flux residue or something like that. Glue residue from the case being put together, I don't know. But yeah, it doesn't look burnt, it doesn't look discolored, it doesn't look bubbled. So I just want to test that. Let's do a little quick diode test on that to see what's going on. I'll just bring this meter in. So we've got the positive here and the negative there. So we should get, let's see what we get. Diode drop is typically 0.6. Yeah, we get 0.625 from there to positive, 0.626 from there to positive, so that looks fine. Let's see, try to the negative. I got this around the wrong way. Yeah, 0.617 to negative, 0.627. So there's a little slight imbalance on that diode. It's a little bit lower, but I don't think it's too much of an issue. If we check across the capacitor, well, we just get open, but that's not surprising. Now what about the input? We should get nothing on the input. Yep, that's correct. Yeah, that bridge rectifier looks actually fine. It's always a good practice to check the input as well, because sometimes they do funny things, and sometimes they, you never know. But there we go. So it looks like the capacitor honestly has just failed by itself, and it's probably just from low quality. Again, if there was significant current draw through this, if it went shorted or something, you'd expect this resistor here to be burnt, or at least discoloured. Potentially damage the bridge rectifier too, but it seems to be fine. I thought maybe if the bridge was bad, it might be sending AC into the cap, and that's what caused the problem, but it kind of looks like the cap just failed by itself. And maybe just with not enough current draw to actually damage anything else. So yeah, I could buy more of these bridge rectifiers if I wanted to, and maybe replace it just as a preemptive thing. MB10S is the model number, and they're very common. They're only like 50 cents each or less or something. So buy it from Farnell, whatever. Don't have to go to get one of these. Something suitable anyway. I would like to try and get this thing working again, and then see if it still has a touchscreen issue. When I was plugging it into my phone, so I don't know what happened with that. It was very strange. I mean, yeah. So potentially there could be some other problem with it. Maybe something wrong with this interference capacitor. I don't know. Could this capacitor have failed open circuit and now we're getting some issue? Not sure. Potentially. What is it supposed to be anyway? 222M. So I believe 2.2 nanofarads. Let's see. I don't know. This thing can measure nanofarads. Whoops. Can we see it? Why do I keep going out of frame? This is terrible. Let's just test that cap and see if it... Yeah, 1.97, so about 2.2 nanofarads. It's close. It's not open circuit. The value is, yeah, what you'd expect. So yeah, that's odd. Don't know. Don't really know why that was a problem. Again, I don't think this failing or being ready to fail could potentially cause that issue, but then again, maybe it did. I mean, maybe this thing was breaking down internally and shorting out slightly and starting to fail, and that was causing spikes of interference that were going through to the output. And but it's kind of surprising that it didn't fail catastrophically at that point, and it was only later on, after it had been sitting around for months, that I plugged it in, and then it blew up like this. So very odd. I don't know. I guess really the only course of action is to replace this cap, maybe replace the bridge rectifier, plug it in and see if we still have the interference problem. Alright, I had a little think about this, and I think I've decided that, yeah, I will try and repair it, because I would like to see what happens. I'd like to see if it still has that interference issue, and whether or not, if it does, then maybe we can try and find out why that's happening. Have a look in that. But yeah, I don't think I want to just replace the cap with this one. I could just stick this one in, but it is possible that there's a non-zero chance that this bridge rectifier is leaky in some way. It didn't test bad in circuit, but yeah, I don't know. It could still have some sort of breakdown problem at full voltage, so it's possible. Probably not likely, but it is possible. I think most likely this cap just failed by itself. It's probably just not great quality. But yeah, I don't know. So I think for now, I'll order a new bridge rectifier, because they're very cheap anyway. And I'll order a capacitor that's likely to actually fit in this case, because yeah, reusing this case wouldn't be too bad. It'd be kind of useful because it's, very compact, and you have the plug-in built and everything is good. I could obviously build this into another box, another case, of course. I mean, we have something like this. I don't know if this is big enough. We've got a little clear box here. Again, actually, I think the height is probably... Yeah, I mean, that would fit even with this other cap. So, you could build it into a little box like this, which is nice because you've got screws, but then you've got to add like a mains plug and an extra cable and stuff. And I mean, it's not too bad, but this case already has the inbuilt plug, so it's more convenient and compact and useful. So, while I could build this into a small box like that, yeah, I'll try to avoid that if possible, because that's just an extra cost. I mean, these caps are only like $3 or less to buy something similar from Farnell, so it's not, much price, and the bridge is only like 50 cents or something. So definitely worth it if it's just those two components, and possibly these caps here, we might want to replace those just for longevity. They might be a bit worn out. Everything else looks fine. That cap tested okay. It seems to be fine. Can't really see any other reason why there'd be interference coming out of this that would affect the operation of the touchscreen of a phone plugged into it, but I'll get a suitable capacitor, I'll get a new bridge rectifier, I'll replace both of those, and then I'll test it out. and see from there. So currently I think I'm not going to do much with it at this point. It's just more sort of a diagnosis kind of thing, and we're not entirely sure even then what's actually going on. And yeah, why was that thing causing interference? It obviously was causing some kind of problem with the touchscreen, which I've never seen on any other charger. So that's, I think, the big question. I kind of want to get to the bottom of that. That's really fascinating to me. So it would be interesting to look into that. So I kind of want to get it back to working and see if that problem's still there. And if it is, then we can troubleshoot that, because I find that quite fascinating. Considering this is a very textbook standard design and most chargers are often the same as this, and there shouldn't really be an issue with the design or anything. It's not some sort of really cheap thing, so yeah, I'm kind of surprised. So it'll be interesting to find out what happened with that. So I kind of want to proceed, even just for the sake of trying to understand what the problem was in that regard. But yeah, it also is like, half decent charger that if I can fix it would be useful to have as a spare. So yeah, I guess that's what'll happen. This will be a part 1, and I will proceed in a later part once I get the correct parts for this. I can do that, and we can hopefully find out what's going on, because I find this to be quite an interesting case study, I suppose, of a failure. Yeah. So anyway, hopefully that's interesting, hopefully that's useful, and I'll see you next time.